Chapter 1. The Invitation to Shadows. The letter arrived on a dreary November morning, its crisp envelope a stark contrast to the grey drizzle that clung to London's streets. Hercule Poirot sat in his impeccably tidy apartment, the aroma of his morning tisane mingling with the faint scent of polished wood. The envelope bore no return address, only a wax seal embossed with a raven clutching a rose, a curious emblem. With a delicate flick of his letter opener, Poirot extracted a single sheet of heavy cream paper, its script elegant yet urgent. "Monsieur Poirot," it began, "your presence is requested at Ravenswood Manor, Yorkshire, this coming Friday. A matter of grave importance awaits your singular talents. Discretion is paramount. Yours sincerely." Lady Eleanor Ashby Poirot's moustache twitched as he reread the note. Lady Eleanor Ashby, a name from a distant case, a woman of poise and mystery, widowed under circumstances whispered about but never proven sinister. The invitation intrigued him, not least because it lacked specifics. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, tapping the paper against his chin. "What game does the lady play in this Ravenswood?" By Friday, Poirot found himself aboard a rattling train, the English countryside blurring past in shades of mist and moor. Hastings, ever eager, had offered to accompany him, but Poirot declined. "This, my friend, requires the little grey cells alone," he had said, though he admitted privately that Hastings's earnestness might have lightened the journey's gloom. The train deposited him at a desolate station, where a chauffeur in a black Rolls-Royce awaited, his face as unreadable as the fog. The drive to Ravenswood Manor wound through skeletal trees and rolling hills, the manor itself emerging like a spectre against the dusk. Its Gothic spires pierced the sky, and ivy clung to its weathered stone like secrets to a guilty conscience. As the car crunched along the gravel drive, Poirot noted the estate's air of neglect. Broken shutters, overgrown roses, a fountain choked with leaves. Yet the windows glowed with lamplight, suggesting life within. Lady Eleanor greeted him at the grand entrance, her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, her emerald eyes sharp despite her 60 years. "Monsieur Poirot, you honour us," she said, her voice smooth but tinged with strain. "I trust your journey was tolerable." "Most tolerable, madame," Poirot replied, bowing slightly. "But I confess your letter, it intrigues. A matter of grave importance, you say?" Her smile flickered. "All in good time. Come, meet the others." The drawing-room was a study in faded opulence. Crimson velvet drapes, a chandelier casting fractured light, and a roaring fire that did little to warm the chill of suspicion in the air. 5 others awaited, their faces a gallery of curiosity and unease. Lady Eleanor introduced them with practised grace. First was Dr. Lionel Hargrove, a wiry man with a nervous tic, his medical bag clutched like a shield. "A pleasure, Monsieur Poirot," he said, though his handshake was clammy. Next, Miss Clara Beaumont, a young artist with auburn curls and a defiant tilt to her chin, her gaze darting to the shadows. Then came Sir Reginald Thorne, a retired barrister whose booming voice belied his frail frame, his eyes scanning Poirot as if sizing up a witness. Mrs. Violet Pembroke, a plump widow draped in mourning black, clutched a lace handkerchief and murmured greetings. Finally, Mr. Julian Carver, a lean, sharp-featured businessman, offered a curt nod, his fingers drumming on a silver cigarette case. Dinner was announced, and the group moved to a dining room dominated by a long mahogany table. Crystal glasses glinted under candlelight, but the meal, roast pheasant and claret, was overshadowed by stilted conversation. Poirot observed, as was his habit, noting the undercurrents. Clara barely touched her food, her eyes fixed on Julian, who avoided her gaze. Sir Reginald monopolized the talk with tales of courtroom triumphs, while Dr. Hargrove fidgeted, glancing at Lady Eleanor. Mrs. Pembroke's sighs punctuated every pause, her handkerchief a constant prop. "Tell me, Lady Eleanor," Poirot said, sipping his wine, "this manor, it has a history, no?" "A certain reputation?" The room stilled. Lady Eleanor's fork paused mid-air. "Ravenswood has stood for centuries," she said carefully. "It holds many stories. Some speak of a curse, tied to my late husband's family. Superstition, of course." "Superstition," Poirot echoed, his tone neutral. "Yet it brings a certain atmosphere, does it not?" Clara laughed, a brittle sound. "Atmosphere? It's positively suffocating. Don't you feel it, Monsieur Poirot? Like the walls are watching." Julian shot her a look. "Don't be absurd, Clara. It's just an old house." "Old houses have secrets," Mrs. Pembroke whispered, her voice trembling. "I felt it the moment I arrived." Sir Reginald snorted. "Nonsense! It's the wind in the chimneys, nothing more." Dr. Hargrove cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss why we're here, Lady Eleanor. Your letter mentioned concerns." Lady Eleanor set down her glass. "Tomorrow," she said firmly. "Tonight we rest. Monsieur Poirot, I trust you'll find your room comfortable." As the group dispersed, Poirot lingered, his gaze sweeping the room. A portrait above the fireplace caught his eye. A stern-faced man with Lady Eleanor's eyes, presumably the late Lord Ashby. The raven and rose emblem adorned the frame's corner. Poirot's fingers brushed his moustache. "We," he murmured, "the little grey cells, they begin to stir." His room was lavish but cold, the four-poster bed dwarfed by heavy tapestries. As he unpacked his small case, a faint creak echoed from the corridor. He opened the door, finding only darkness. Yet, as he closed it, a folded note slipped beneath. In hurried script, it read, "Trust no one. The raven sees all." Poirot's eyes gleamed. He tucked the note into his pocket, extinguished the lamp, and sat in the dark, listening to the manor's whispers. The game, as he suspected, had already begun. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Hallways. The morning sun struggled through the heavy clouds over Ravenswood Manor, casting a pallid glow across the estate's sprawling grounds. Hercule Poirot, ever precise, adjusted his tie in the mirror of his room. The cryptic note from the previous night tucked safely in his waistcoat. Its warning, "Trust no one, the raven sees all," lingered in his mind, a puzzle piece yet to find its place. He descended the grand staircase, his polished shoes clicking on the worn marble, his senses alert to the manor's oppressive silence. Breakfast was served in a sunlit conservatory, its glass walls streaked with condensation. The group from the previous evening gathered, their faces betraying varying degrees of restlessness. Lady Eleanor presided at the head of the table, her composure unshaken despite the faint shadows beneath her eyes. Poirot noted the seating. Clara Beaumont sat furthest from Julian Carver, her sketchbook open but untouched. Dr. Lionel Hargrove fidgeted with his coffee spoon. Sir Reginald Thorne spread butter on toast with unnecessary vigour. And Mrs. Violet Pembroke, still in morning black, picked at a scone, her gaze distant. "Bon matin," Poirot greeted, taking his seat. "The air, it is crisp today, no? Most invigorating for the little grey cells." Sir Reginald grunted. "Invigorating? This place feels like a tomb. Kept me up half the night with its creaking." "Old houses do creak," Lady Eleanor said smoothly, pouring tea. "Ravenswood has its quirks, but it is home, Clara's pencil snapped against her sketchbook. Quirks? I heard footsteps outside my door at 2 a.m. Not creaks, footsteps. Julian Carver lit a cigarette, exhaling sharply. You're imagining things, Clara. Too much wine at dinner. Her eyes flashed. I know what I heard, Julian, and I wasn't the only one awake. Poirot's gaze sharpened, though his smile remained polite. Footsteps, mademoiselle. Most interesting. And you, monsieur. He turned to Julian. You slept soundly, I presume. Julian hesitated, his fingers pausing on his cigarette case. Well enough, he muttered. Mrs. Pembroke's voice quavered. I heard them too, pacing back and forth near the east wing. It was unsettling. Dr. Hargrove cleared his throat. Nerves, Mrs. Pembroke. Old houses amplify sounds. Perhaps a servant. Servants don't wander at that hour, Clara snapped. And I saw a light under my door, like someone was holding a candle. Lady Eleanor's cup clinked against its saucer. The staff know better than to roam at night. Perhaps it was merely the wind moving a curtain. Poirot sipped his coffee, his eyes darting between faces. The wind. It is a convenient culprit, no? But let us speak of this matter of grave importance you mentioned, Lady Eleanor. Why are we all here? The room stilled. Lady Eleanor folded her hands, her expression unreadable. Very well, Monsieur Poirot. My late husband, Lord Ashby, left behind complications. His will, recently uncovered, has stirred disputes among certain parties. I've invited you all, those named in it or affected by it, to resolve matters discreetly. Sir Reginald's bushy brows rose. Disputes? What sort of disputes? I was his solicitor for years. His will was airtight. Was it? Julian said, his tone sharp. Then why are we here, playing at secrets in this mausoleum? Enough, Julian, Lady Eleanor said. The details will be discussed this afternoon in the library. Monsieur Poirot, I trust you'll lend your expertise to untangle any misunderstandings. Poirot inclined his head. Naturellement. But misunderstandings, they often hide deeper truths, do they not? The conversation shifted to safer topics, but Poirot's mind was elsewhere. After breakfast, he excused himself to explore the manor's labyrinthine halls. The corridors were lined with portraits, their subjects staring down with haughty disapproval. He paused at a painting of a young woman in a raven feather cloak, her eyes eerily similar to Lady Eleanor's. A plaque read, Cecilia Ashby, 1847. The raven and rose emblem appeared again, etched into the frame. As he turned a corner, he overheard hushed voices from a half-open door. You shouldn't have come, Clara whispered fiercely. If they find out. They won't, Julian hissed. Keep your voice down. You're the one drawing attention with your hysterics. Poirot stepped back, his presence unnoticed, and continued down the hall. The exchange, brief as it was, confirmed his suspicions. Secrets bound these guests as tightly as the ivy around Ravenswood's walls. In the library, he found Dr. Hargrove rifling through a stack of books, his hands trembling. Monsieur le Docteur, Poirot said, startling him. You seek knowledge, perhaps? Hargrove dropped a volume, flustered. Just curious about the Ashby family history. Old medical records, you know. Curieux indeed, Poirot said, picking up the book. A dusty tome titled Legends of Ravenswood. This speaks of curses, no? The raven. It is a recurring motif. Hargrove paled. Superstition. I don't believe in such things. Nor does Poirot, he replied, smiling. But others do. And belief, it can drive one to desperate acts. As Hargrove stammered an excuse and left, Poirot flipped through the book, noting references to a raven's curse tied to the Ashby lineage, tragic deaths, missing heirs, and a stolen fortune. He closed it thoughtfully, his mind cataloguing details. Later, as he strolled the grounds, he encountered Mrs. Pembroke by the neglected fountain. Her handkerchief was damp, her eyes red. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, "do you think this place is haunted?" "Haunted? No, madam, but it is alive with secrets. Tell me, what troubles you?" She hesitated. "I knew Lord Ashby years ago. He was kind to me. But his death, it wasn't right. And now, being here, I feel him watching." Poirot's gaze softened. "Grief, it plays tricks, but rest assured, Poirot sees what others do not." As she nodded tearfully, a distant bell signalled lunch. Poirot lingered, his eyes scanning the manor's shadowed windows. A curtain twitched in the east wing, though no one was visible. The note's warning echoed in his mind. The raven sees all, but what did it see? And who had slipped that note under his door? Returning to the house, he passed a locked door marked Servants' Quarters. A faint scent of candle wax lingered, and a single raven feather lay on the floor. Poirot pocketed it, his moustache twitching. "The little grey cells," he murmured, "they are never idle." Chapter 3. The Midnight Apparition. The clock in Ravenswood Manor's grand hall struck 11, its chimes echoing through the cavernous corridors like a warning. Hercule Poirot, seated by the fire in the drawing-room, observed the gathered guests with his usual meticulous care. The evening had begun with a strained attempt at civility, cards and sherry, but the atmosphere was taut, as if the manor itself held its breath. Lady Eleanor, regal in a sapphire gown, presided over the group, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Poirot's mind churned, the cryptic note and overheard whispers from earlier fueling his curiosity. The conversation turned to local law, prompted by Sir Reginald Thorne's gruff dismissal of the manor's rumoured curse. "Poppycock!" he declared, puffing on a cigar. "Ghosts and curses are for fools. This is about money, mark my words. Lord Ashby's will is the real spectre here." Clara Beaumont, sketching idly by the window, snorted. "You'd dismiss anything that doesn't fit in a courtroom, Sir Reginald. I felt something last night. A presence." Mrs. Violet Pembroke clutched her shawl, her voice a whisper. "I told you, Monsieur Poirot, this place isn't right. I saw a shadow in the hall near midnight." Julian Carver rolled his eyes, swirling his drink. "Shadows? You're all jumping at nothing. Old houses cast long shadows, that's all." Dr. Lionel Hargrove, nursing a brandy, shifted uncomfortably. "Let's not feed hysteria. There's a rational explanation, always is." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Rational, oui, but the human heart, it is not always so. Tell me, Madame Pembroke, this shadow, what was its nature?" She hesitated, her handkerchief twisting in her hands. "It was tall, cloaked, like a figure from one of those portraits. It moved silently toward the east wing, then vanished." Lady Eleanor's laugh was sharp. "The east wing? That's been locked for years. Servants don't even go there." "Yet footsteps were heard," Poirot said, his tone mild but probing. "Mademoiselle Beaumont, you mentioned them this morning. And now a shadow. Most curious." Before anyone could respond, a piercing scream shattered the room's tension. It came from the direction of the main staircase. The group froze, then surged toward the sound, Poirot leading with surprising agility. At the foot of the stairs stood a maid, her face ashen, pointing upward. "I saw it," she stammered. "A figure, black as night with glowing eyes. It floated up there." "Calm yourself, girl," Lady Eleanor snapped, though her own hands trembled. "Show us." The maid, trembling, led them to the first-floor landing. The air was colder here, the shadows deeper. She pointed to a darkened corridor leading to the east wing. "It went that way, my lady. I swear it." Poirot's eyes scanned the scene. The corridor was dusty, untouched by recent footsteps, yet a faint draught stirred the air. He knelt, examining the floor, and found a single drop of wax, fresh as if from a candle. "Interesting," he murmured, pocketing a handkerchief he used to collect it. "A ghost who carries a candle, perhaps?" Sir Reginald scoffed. "A prank, more likely. Someone's playing tricks to unsettle us." Clara's voice was sharp, or to keep us from asking questions about that will. Julian shot her a glance. "You're quick to point fingers, Clara. What's your game?" "Enough," Lady Eleanor said. "Monsieur Poirot, what do you make of this?" Poirot stood, brushing his hands. "A figure, a scream, a locked wing. The pieces, they do not yet fit, but they will. Let us return to the drawing-room. I wish to hear more of this apparition." Back by the fire, the maid, calmed with a glass of water, recounted her tale. She'd been carrying linens when she saw the figure glide past, its face obscured but its eyes like embers. Poirot questioned her gently, noting her insistence on the figure's silence. No footsteps, only a faint rustle, like silk. He turned to the group. "Who was not with us when the scream occurred?" Dr. Hargrove frowned. "We were all here, weren't we?" "Non," Poirot said. "Monsieur Carver, you stepped out briefly just before. To fetch another drink, you said?" Julian's jaw tightened. "Yes, and I was back in 2 minutes. What are you implying?" "Nothing yet," Poirot replied, his smile disarming. "But alibis, they are like threads. One pulls and the fabric unravels." Mrs. Pembroke shivered. "It's the curse, Lord Ashby's spirit, angry about the will." "Or someone wants us to think so," Clara muttered, her pencil scratching furiously now, sketching a cloaked figure. Poirot's gaze lingered on her drawing, then shifted to Lady Eleanor. "The east wing. Madame, why is it locked?" She hesitated. "It's unsafe. Old wiring, crumbling floors. My husband sealed it after an incident years ago." "An incident?" Poirot pressed. "A fire," she said curtly. "No one was hurt, but it's been closed since." Poirot nodded, filing the information away. As the group dispersed to their rooms, he lingered, examining the staircase. The wax drop suggested a candle, not a ghost, and the maid's description, silk, glowing eyes, hinted at theatrics. He recalled the raven feather from earlier, the note's warning. Someone was orchestrating fear, but to what end? In his room, he lit a single candle, watching its flame dance. The manor's secrets were like shadows, shifting and elusive. He opened Legends of Ravenswood, found in the library, and read of a cloaked figure tied to the curse, a guardian of the Ashby fortune, said to appear before calamity. Superstition, perhaps, but Poirot trusted facts. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Clara stood at the door, her face pale. "Monsieur Poirot, I need to tell you something, in private." He gestured her inside. "Speak, mademoiselle. Poirot listens." She glanced over her shoulder, then whispered, "I didn't want to say earlier, but I recognized the figure. It looked like someone I saw in a photograph, in the library." Cecilia Ashby Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The woman in the raven feather cloak? Most intriguing. And you are certain?" "As certain as I can be," she said, her voice unsteady. "But why would someone dress as her? To scare us?" "Or to distract," Poirot said. "Merci, mademoiselle. You have given the little grey cells much to ponder." As she left, Poirot sat back, his mind weaving threads, wax feathers, footsteps, a locked wing. The apparition was no ghost, but a clue, one he would unravel. The raven, it seemed, was watching indeed. Chapter 4. Secrets Unearthed. The morning after the midnight apparition, Ravenswood Manor seemed to hold its secrets tighter. as if the very walls conspired to obscure the truth. Hercule Poirot, ever fastidious, adjusted his cuffs and descended to the breakfast room. His mind buzzing with the previous night's revelations, the cloaked figure, Clara's whispered confession, and the persistent echo of the raven and rose emblem. The air was thick with suspicion, and Poirot's little grey cells were primed for the day's discoveries. The breakfast table was quieter than before, the guests' faces etched with unease. Lady Eleanor, composed as ever, sipped tea, though her fingers lingered on the cup's handle. Clara Beaumont sat apart, her sketchbook closed, her eyes darting to Julian Carver, who lit a cigarette with deliberate nonchalance. Sir Reginald Thorne grumbled over his newspaper, while Dr. Lionel Hargrove pushed his eggs around his plate, lost in thought. Mrs. Violet Pembroke, her handkerchief ever present, murmured about restless dreams. Bon matin, Poirot greeted, his voice cutting through the tension. The manner, it has a way of unsettling the spirit, no? But the mind, it seeks clarity. Sir Reginald snorted. Clarity? After last night's nonsense? Someone's playing games, Poirot, and I'd wager it's about that will. Perhaps, Poirot said, buttering a croissant, but games they leave traces, and Poirot, he finds them. Lady Eleanor set down her cup. Monsieur Poirot, I've arranged for the will to be discussed this afternoon, but first feel free to explore the estate. It may enlighten you. Poirot inclined his head, sensing her words were both invitation and challenge. After breakfast, he set out to investigate Ravenswood's hidden corners, convinced the manor itself held clues to its mysteries. The grounds were vast, the gardens overgrown with thorns and wilted roses, their petals littering the paths like forgotten promises. He paused at the fountain, its basin cracked and mossy, and noted a faint carving in the stone, a raven clutching a rose, identical to the wax seal on his invitation. His exploration led him to a crumbling greenhouse, its glass panes clouded with age. Inside, he found gardening tools and a locked wooden box, its lid engraved with the initials C.A., Cecilia Ashby perhaps. Using a hairpin from his pocket, Poirot deftly picked the lock, revealing a bundle of yellowed letters tied with black ribbon. The topmost was addressed to my dearest Eleanor in a flowing script. He skimmed it, noting phrases of forbidden love and a warning. The raven's curse will follow us. Tucking the letters into his coat, he resolved to read them later, away from prying eyes. Next he ventured indoors, navigating the manor's maze-like corridors. A narrow staircase led to a locked door marked East Wing. Recalling the maid's tale of the cloaked figure, he examined the lock, old but recently oiled, suggesting use. A faint scratch on the frame caught his eye, as if something heavy had been dragged through. He filed this away, his curiosity deepening. In the library, he found a dusty ledger hidden behind a row of novels. It detailed Ravenswood's accounts from decades past, mentioning a missing ruby brooch, an Ashby heirloom of immense value. A margin note, in a different hand, read, "Stolen, 1890, C.A. suspected." Poirot's moustache twitched. Cecilia Ashby again. Was the brooch's disappearance tied to the curse, or something more mundane, like greed? As he closed the ledger, a clatter echoed from the hall. He emerged to find Clara, her face flushed, picking up a fallen candelabra. "Monsieur Poirot," she gasped, "I was just looking for something." "Something or someone?" Poirot asked, his tone gentle but probing. She hesitated, then whispered, "The brooch. I heard it's hidden here. If it's found, it could change everything." "Change what, mademoiselle?" Her eyes darted away. The will. My future, I can't say more." Before Poirot could press further, Julian Carver appeared, his expression dark. "Clara, what are you doing? You'll only make things worse." "Worse for whom?" she snapped, storming off. Poirot watched Julian's tense retreat, noting the man's clenched fists. Returning to the library, he found Mrs. Pembroke leafing through Legends of Ravenswood. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice trembling, "this book mentions Cecilia Ashby. They say she stole the ruby brooch and cursed the family when they banished her." "Banished?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "For what crime?" "Love," she said softly. "She loved the wrong person. It broke the family." Poirot nodded, his mind weaving connections, letters, a brooch, a curse. As lunch approached, he joined the others in the dining room, where Lady Eleanor announced the brooch's absence had been noticed. "It was to be auctioned for charity," she said, her voice tight. "Its loss complicates the will's execution." Sir Reginald pounded the table. "Complicates! It's worth a fortune. Someone here knows where it is." Dr. Hargrove paled. "You can't think I'd—" "No one's accusing anyone," Lady Eleanor cut in. "Yet." Poirot observed the group's reactions, Clara's flush, Julian's scowl, Hargrove's unease. After lunch, he slipped away to read the letters. They revealed Cecilia's affair with a servant, her banishment, and her vow to haunt Ravenswood's greed. One letter mentioned a hidden compartment in the East Wing, where she'd concealed her heart's treasure. As dusk fell, Poirot stood by his window, watching the manor's shadows lengthen. The brooch, the letters, the locked wing, they were threads in a tapestry of deceit. Someone was stirring the past to cloud the present, and Poirot was determined to cut through the fog. A faint creak from the corridor snapped him back. He opened his door, finding only a single raven feather, its tip stained with wax. "The raven sees all," he murmured, pocketing the feather. The game was growing darker, and Poirot's little grey cells were ready for the challenge. Chapter 5. The Poisoned Chalice. The dining room of Ravenswood Manor glowed under the flickering light of a chandelier, its crystals casting jagged patterns across the mahogany table. Hercule Poirot sat among the guests, his sharp eyes noting every gesture as the evening meal unfolded. The air was heavy with unspoken accusations, the missing ruby brooch, and the midnight apparition fueling a palpable tension. Lady Eleanor, at the head of the table, maintained her composure, but her fingers tightened around her wine-glass. Tonight, Poirot sensed, the manor's secrets would draw closer to the surface, or claim a victim. The meal was lavish, roast lamb, glazed carrots, and a rich claret served in crystal goblets. Yet the guests ate sparingly, their appetites dulled by suspicion. Clara, Beaumont, her auburn curls pinned haphazardly, pushed her food around her plate, her gaze flickering toward Julian Carver, who sipped his wine with calculated calm. Sir Reginald Thorne, his face flushed from drink, grumbled about the brooch's theft, while Dr. Lionel Hargrove, pale and fidgety, barely touched his meal. Mrs. Violet Pembroke, clutching her ever-present handkerchief, murmured about the curse's shadow over the house. Poirot, ever observant, broke the silence. "The cuisine, it is exquisite, non? Yet the atmosphere, it lacks warmth. Perhaps the events of last night weigh heavily." Lady Eleanor's smile was tight. "We are all on edge, Monsieur Poirot. The brooch's loss is troubling, but I trust you'll help resolve it." "Oui, madame," Poirot replied, his tone mild, "but losses, they are often tied to motives. And motives, they hide in plain sight." Before anyone could respond, Dr. Hargrove coughed violently, his hand clutching his throat, His goblet clattered to the table, spilling claret like blood. My chest!" he gasped, his face turning ashen. He slumped forward, knocking over a candelabra. Chaos erupted. Clara screamed, Julian leapt to his feet, and Mrs. Pembroke wailed, "The curse!" Lady Eleanor called for the servants, while Sir Reginald bellowed, "Do something, man!" Poirot, swift despite his compact frame, knelt beside Hargrove, loosening his collar. The doctor's breathing was shallow, his eyes wide with panic. "Calm, monsieur," Poirot said, his voice steady. "Breathe slowly." He turned to the maid hovering nearby. "Fetch water, vite, and a doctor, if one is near." "There's no other doctor for miles," Lady Eleanor said, her composure fraying. "Lionel was our only physician." Poirot's eyes narrowed. He sniffed Hargrove's goblet, detecting a faint bitter scent beneath the wine's bouquet. Almonds, perhaps? "Poison," he murmured, his mind racing. He scanned the table, noting the goblet's positions. Hargrove's was distinct, etched with a raven, unlike the others. Servants carried Hargrove to a nearby sofa, where he lay. Semi-conscious, muttering incoherently, Poirot addressed the group, his voice cutting through the panic. "No one leaves this room. The little grey cells, they must work undisturbed." He examined the scene meticulously. The spilled claret had stained the tablecloth, but the goblet was nearly empty, suggesting Hargrove had drunk deeply. A servant confirmed the wine had come from a single decanter, yet only Hargrove was affected. Poirot's gaze fell on the decanter, then the tray of goblets brought before dinner. "Who served the wine?" he asked sharply. The butler, a stooped man named Grayson, stepped forward. "I did, sir. Poured it myself, same as always." "And the goblets? They were prepared in advance?" "Yes, sir. Washed and set out this afternoon." Poirot nodded, his mind cataloguing details. He turned to the guests, their faces a mix of fear and suspicion. "Monsieur Carver, you were near the tray before dinner. Did you touch the goblets?" Julian's jaw tightened. "I might have brushed past. What are you implying?" "Nothing yet," Poirot said, his smile disarming. "But precision, it is everything, Mademoiselle Beaumont. You were sketching earlier. Did you see anyone near the tray?" Clara hesitated, her eyes darting to Julian. I wasn't paying attention. I was focused on my drawing." Mrs. Pembroke sobbed. "It's the curse. First the brooch, now this. Cecilia's spirit is angry." "No, madame," Poirot said firmly. "This is no curse, but a crime. And crimes, they leave traces." Sir Reginald pounded his fist. "Poison! Absurd! Hargrove's probably just ill. Overindulged, maybe." Poirot ignored him, addressing Lady Eleanor. "Madam, the East Wing, has it been accessed recently? I found signs of use yesterday." Her eyes widened briefly. "Impossible. It's locked as I told you." "Yet locks can be opened," Poirot mused. He excused himself briefly, retrieving the letters he'd found in the greenhouse. One mentioned a bitter elixir, hidden in the East Wing, used by Cecilia Ashby for protection. Could it be the source of the poison? Returning, he found Hargrove stabilized, though weak. The doctor whispered, "The wine, it tasted wrong." Poirot patted his hand. "Rest, monsieur. Poirot will find the truth." He gathered the group, his voice commanding attention. "Someone in this room poisoned Dr. Hargrove. The goblet was marked, the act deliberate. I ask now, who stood to gain from his silence?" Clara gasped. "Silence? You think he knew something?" "Perhaps," Poirot said. "Or perhaps he was a warning. Tell me, who among you has been to the East Wing?" Silence met him, broken only by Mrs. Pembroke's sniffles. Julian finally spoke. This is ridiculous. You're turning us against each other. No, Poirot countered. The truth, it does that on its own. As the group dispersed under Lady Eleanor's orders to remain in their rooms, Poirot lingered, examining the goblet. A faint residue clung to its rim, confirming his suspicion of cyanide or a similar toxin. He recalled the wax drop from the apparition's night, the raven feather, the locked east wing. The threads were converging, but the pattern remained elusive. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows. Poirot stood alone, the poisoned chalice in his mind's eye. Someone was playing a dangerous game, and he was determined to unmask them before another fell to the raven's curse, or its earthly counterpart. Chapter 6. Echoes of Betrayal. The storm that had been brewing over Ravenswood Manor broke with fury as night fell, rain lashing the Gothic spires and thunder rattling the ancient windows. Hercule Poirot sat in his room, the flicker of a single candle illuminating the letters from Cecilia, Ashby he'd found in the greenhouse. Their words, love, banishment, a bitter elixir, wove a tapestry of past betrayals that seemed to echo in the present crisis. Dr. Hargrove's poisoning lingered in his mind, a deliberate act that tightened the web of suspicion around the guests. Poirot's little grey cells hummed, sensing the manor's secrets were clawing closer to the surface. Dinner had been cancelled, the household too shaken by the afternoon's events. Hargrove, recovering but weak, rested under a servant's watch, his whispered claim of a wrong taste in the wine gnawing at Poirot. The marked goblet, the almond-like scent, cyanide, almost certainly, pointed to premeditation. But why Hargrove? And how did it connect to the missing ruby brooch, the locked east wing, and the spectral figure? Poirot joined the others in the drawing-room, where a fire crackled fitfully against the storm's chill. Lady Eleanor stood by the mantel, her face pale but resolute. Clara Beaumont clutched her sketchbook, her fingers smudged with charcoal. Julian Carver paced, his cigarette smoke curling like a ghost. Sir Reginald Thorne sat heavily, nursing a brandy, while Mrs. Violet Pembroke's handkerchief was a sodden wreck, her eyes red from tears. "Mon Dieu," Poirot began, his voice cutting through the storm's din. "The events of today, they are most grave. A poisoner walks among us, and Poirot will not rest until the truth is revealed." Sir Reginald snorted. "Truth? Hargrove's alive, isn't he? Probably just a bad batch of wine." "No," Poirot said sharply. "The goblet was marked, the poison targeted. Someone wished to silence Dr. Hargrove, or to warn us all." Clara's voice trembled. "Warn us? About what? The brooch? The will?" Julian stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing. "You're quick to talk, Clara. Always sketching, always watching. What do you know?" "Enough," Lady Eleanor snapped. "This bickering helps no one. Monsieur Poirot, what have you found?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "Clues, madame. Letters from Cecilia Ashby, speaking of betrayal and a hidden elixir. A wax drop from a candle, a raven feather, a locked east wing with signs of recent use. And now, poison. These are not accidents." Mrs. Pembroke gasped. "Cecilia's elixir. The book said she used it to curse those who wronged her." "Superstition," Julian muttered, but his hand shook as he lit another cigarette. Poirot turned to Lady Eleanor. "Madam, you spoke of an incident in the East Wing, a fire. Tell me more." Her lips tightened. "It was 20 years ago. My husband's brother Edmund died in that fire. An accident, they said, sparked by a lantern. The wing was sealed afterward." "Yet someone has entered it," Poirot said. "The lock is oiled, the frame scratched, and the apparition, it was seen there." Sir Reginald leaned forward, You're saying someone's sneaking around, staging ghosts for what? For motive, Poirot replied. The brooch, the will, the curse, they are threads in a single fabric. But let us speak of the past. Who among you knew Edmund Ashby? A heavy silence fell. Clara broke it, her voice soft. I met him once, as a child. He was kind but troubled. My mother said he and Lord Ashby quarrelled over money. Julian's eyes flicked to her. Your mother? She was close to the Ashbys, wasn't she? Too close, some said. Clara flushed. What are you implying? Enough, Poirot interjected. Monsieur Carver, you seem well informed. And you, Madame Pembroke, your connection to Lord Ashby, it was personal, no? Mrs. Pembroke's handkerchief froze. We were friends years ago. He helped me after my husband died. Nothing more. Poirot nodded, his gaze shifting to Sir Reginald. And you, monsieur, as Lord Ashby's solicitor, you knew his affairs. The will, did it mention Edmund? Sir Reginald hesitated. It did. Edmund's share was contested, but that's old history. History, Poirot mused. It has a way of returning. Like the storm outside. A crash of thunder punctuated his words, followed by a sharp cry from the hall. The group rushed out, finding a servant, Grayson, standing over a shattered vase. I saw it again, he stammered. The cloaked figure in the east wing corridor. Poirot's eyes gleamed. He led the way, the group trailing reluctantly. The corridor was dark, the air heavy with damp. A faint scent of wax lingered, and Poirot found another raven feather, its tip glistening with fresh wax. No ghost, he said, holding it up. A human hand leaves such traces. Lady Eleanor's voice was sharp. This is madness. The wing is locked. Then let us unlock it, Poirot said. Tomorrow, madame, you will provide the key. As the group returned to the drawing room, Poirot lingered, his mind racing. The letters had mentioned Cecilia's lover, banished with her, and a treasure hidden in the east wing. Was it the brooch? Or something more dangerous, like the elixir? Hargrove's poisoning suggested someone feared his knowledge, perhaps of the will or the past. Later, in his room, Poirot overheard a hushed argument through the wall. Clara and Julian, their voices low but heated. You shouldn't have taken it, Clara whispered. If they find out. They won't, Julian hissed. Keep quiet or we're both finished. Poirot's fingers brushed the raven feather in his pocket. Betrayal, old and new, wove through Ravenswood's halls. The storm raged on, isolating the manor, and Poirot knew the poisoner's next move was near. He extinguished his candle, the darkness sharpening his resolve. The truth, like the raven, was watching, and Poirot would see it first. Chapter 7. The Vanishing Witness. The storm's fury had subsided by morning, leaving Ravenswood Manor shrouded in a damp, oppressive mist. Hercule Poirot stood at his window, the raven feather from the previous night twirling between his fingers. The poisoning of Dr. Hargrove, the cloaked figure, and the whispered argument between Clara and Julian all pointed to a conspiracy rooted in the manor's shadowed past. Lady Eleanor's promise to unlock the East Wing today fueled Poirot's anticipation. But as he descended to breakfast, a new disturbance shattered the fragile calm, thrusting the mystery into darker territory. The breakfast room was nearly empty. Lady Eleanor sat alone, her face ashen, her tea untouched. Sir Reginald Thorne and Mrs. Violet Pembroke were present, but Clara Beaumont and Julian Carver were conspicuously absent. Poirot's eyes narrowed as he took his seat. Bon matin, madame, he said to Lady Eleanor. The gathering, it is diminished today, no? She met his gaze, her voice strained. Clara has not come down. Her maid says her room is empty, and Julian, he's gone too. Mrs. Pembroke gasped, her handkerchief fluttering. "Gone! The curse! It's taken them!" Sir Reginald slammed his cup down. "Nonsense! They've probably run off together. Always sneaking about, those two." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Run off! Or been taken! We must investigate, vite!" He rose, his mind racing. Clara's whispered warning about Julian taking something, combined with their absence, suggested flight, or foul play. Lady Eleanor led the group to Clara's room. The door was ajar, the bed unmade, and a sketchbook lay open on the desk, its pages filled with drawings of the cloaked figure and the raven and rose emblem. A half-packed valise sat in the corner, its contents spilling out, a scarf, a locket, and a crumpled letter. Poirot picked it up, noting its hurried script. "Meet me at midnight. East Wing, we end this." Unsigned, but the handwriting matched Julian's sharp, slanted style from a note Poirot had seen in the library. "Most curious," Poirot murmured. "Mademoiselle Beaumont was planning to meet someone, but where is she now?" He moved to Julian's room, finding it similarly disordered. A cigarette case lay on the floor, its lid dented, and a window was slightly open, the sill wet from last night's rain. Poirot examined the frame, noting faint scratches, marks of a forced exit or entry. "Someone left in haste," he said, "or was made to leave." Lady Eleanor's voice was sharp. "The East Wing. You insisted on seeing it, Monsieur Poirot. Let's go now." She produced a heavy iron key, and the group, minus Hargrove, still recovering, followed her to the locked corridor. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty passage lined with faded tapestries. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of mould and something else. Wax again. Poirot's eyes scanned the floor, finding scuff marks and a single raven feather, its tip stained with a dark, sticky substance. "Not wax, but blood, Mrs." Pembroke whimpered. "The curse! It's real." "Non," Poirot said firmly. "Blood is human, not spectral. We must search further." The East Wing was a maze of abandoned rooms, their furniture draped in sheets like ghosts. Poirot's keen eyes caught a faint outline in the dust, a trapdoor beneath a rug. He knelt, prying it open to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, "a hidden passage, the manner it keeps its secrets well." Lady Eleanor hesitated. "That leads to the old cellars. No one's been down there since the fire." "Then it is time," Poirot said, lighting a candle from his pocket. He descended, the others trailing reluctantly. The air grew colder, the walls damp. At the bottom, they found a stone chamber, its shelves lined with dusty bottles and crates. In the corner, a wooden panel hung askew, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a small vial of amber liquid, labelled CA's elixir, and a velvet pouch, empty but sized for a brooch. Poirot's gaze sharpened. "The elixir of Cecilia Ashby. Perhaps the source of Dr. Hargrove's poison?" Sir Reginald scoffed. "You think Clara or Julian found this, and what, used it to poison Hargrove, then vanished, or were silenced," Poirot said. "The blood, it suggests struggle." Returning upstairs, Poirot questioned the servants. Grayson, the butler, admitted seeing Julian near the East Wing last night, carrying a lantern. The maid who'd seen the apparition confirmed a cloaked figure near the same corridor. But no one had seen Clara since dinner. Poirot's mind churned. Julian's note, the blood, the empty pouch. Were they thieves, victims, or both? In the library, he confronted Lady Eleanor. "Madame, the will, does it mention the brooch explicitly?" She nodded. "It was to be sold, the proceeds divided among the heirs. Clara and Julian both stood to gain." And if the brooch is not found, Poirot pressed. Her eyes flickered. The estate's debts would fall to me, but I'd never— "No," Poirot said, raising a hand. "I accuse no one, yet, but someone seeks to control the game." As night fell, Poirot sat by his window, the vial and feather before him. The storm had isolated the manor, but the true isolation was among the guests, their alliances fracturing. Clara and Julian's disappearance was no coincidence. It was a move in a deadly chess match. The bloodied feather, the hidden passage, the elixir, all pointed to a truth buried in Ravenswood's past, one Poirot was determined to unearth before the raven struck again. Chapter 8. Revelations in the Library. The mist clung to Ravenswood Manor like a shroud, its tendrils curling around the Gothic spires, as Hercule Poirot prepared for a pivotal confrontation. The disappearance of Clara Beaumont and Julian Carver, coupled with the bloodied raven feather and the discovery of Cecilia Ashby's elixir in the East Wing, had tightened the web of intrigue. Dr. Hargrove's poisoning and the missing ruby brooch pointed to a calculated plot, and Poirot's little grey cells were alight with the need to unravel it. Tonight, he would gather the remaining guests in the library, where truths would be tested and masks would slip. The library was a cavern of shadows, its towering shelves heavy with dusty tomes and the weight of secrets. A fire roared in the hearth, casting flickering light on the portraits of Ashby ancestors, their stern gazes seeming to judge the living. Lady Eleanor stood by a mahogany table, her composure strained but intact. Dr. Lionel Hargrove, pale but ambulatory, sat clutching a glass of water, his eyes darting nervously. Sir Reginald Thorne paced, his brandy glass empty, while Mrs. Violet Pembroke twisted her handkerchief, murmuring prayers. The absence of Clara and Julian hung over the room like a spectre. Poirot entered, his small frame commanding attention. "Mes amis," he began, his voice clear and deliberate, "the time for games is over. A poisoner walks among us, a brooch is missing, and 2 souls have vanished. Tonight, Poirot will shine light on the shadows of Ravenswood." Sir Reginald snorted. "About time, but where's your proof, Poirot? You've been poking around, finding feathers and bottles, but no answers." "Patience, monsieur," Poirot said, his moustache twitching. "The truth, it is like a mosaic. Each piece must be placed with care. Let us begin with the facts." He paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "Doctor!" Hargrove was poisoned, his goblet marked with a raven, the wine laced with a substance akin to Cecilia Ashby's elixir, found in the East Wing. The brooch, a key to the will's execution, is gone. And now, Mademoiselle Beaumont and Monsieur Carver are missing, with signs of struggle. A bloodied feather, a forced window, a hidden passage. Mrs. Pembroke whimpered. "It's Cecilia's curse. She's taking them, one by one." "No, madam," Poirot said firmly. "This is no curse, but human greed and fear. Let us speak of motives. The will, Lady Eleanor. You said it divides the brooch's proceeds among heirs. Who are they?" Lady Eleanor hesitated, then spoke. "Clara, as a distant cousin, was named. Julian, through a business debt owed by my husband, and myself, of course." Poirot nodded. "And Dr. Hargrove, Sir Reginald, Madame Pembroke." Hargrove cleared his throat. "I was to receive a stipend for my services to the family, nothing more." Sir Reginald bristled. "I'm no heir, Poirot. I was Lord Ashby's solicitor, not his beneficiary." Mrs. Pembroke's voice quavered. I was promised a small sum for old kindnesses." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Kindnesses or secrets? Madame, you spoke of Lord Ashby's help after your husband's death. Was there more?" She flushed. her handkerchief shredding. He loved me once, but it was nothing. Improper. Yet secrets breed motives, Poirot said. He turned to Hargrove. Monsieur, you searched the library for medical records. Did you seek knowledge of Cecilia's elixir? Hargrove paled. I was curious about her remedies. As a doctor, Curious or desperate? Poirot cut in. You survived the poison, but perhaps you knew its antidote. That's absurd, Hargrove protested. Poirot raised a hand. Let us turn to the east wing. The passage, the elixir, the empty pouch. Someone sought the brooch. But why? To claim its value, or to prevent the will's execution? Lady Eleanor's voice was sharp. You're accusing us, Monsieur Poirot. Non, I observe, he replied, but let us test reactions. He produced the crumpled note found in Clara's room, reading aloud, Meet me at midnight, East Wing, we end this. Signed by Monsieur Carver, I believe. Sir Reginald frowned. Julian, what was he ending? Perhaps a partnership, Poirot said, watching their faces. Clara spoke of a photograph, of Cecilia Ashby's cloak. She suspected someone was using it to frighten us. But who? He paused, then stepped to a bookshelf, retrieving Legends of Ravenswood. This book tells of Cecilia's banishment for love, her vow to curse the Ashbys. But it also mentions a hidden vault in this very library. The group gasped as Poirot pressed a carved raven on the shelf. A panel clicked open, revealing a small compartment. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle. Poirot opened it, reading aloud, They took my love, my honour, my brooch. I hid it where none will look, in the raven's heart. Signed Cecilia Ashby. Mrs. Pembroke sobbed. She's guiding us. The brooch is here. Or someone wants us to think so, Poirot said. He turned to Lady Eleanor. Madame, you knew of this vault? Her eyes widened. No, it's been forgotten for generations. Poirot's gaze shifted to Hargrove, who shrank back. Monsieur, you spent much time here. Did you know? I swear I didn't, Hargrove stammered. Sir Reginald pounded the table. Enough theatrics. Where are Clara and Julian? That's what matters. Oui, Poirot agreed, and I believe they are closer than we think. He paused, his voice lowering. Someone in this room knows their fate. The blood, the feather, the note. They point to a struggle, not a flight. Speak now, or Poirot will uncover the truth. The fire crackled, the storm's distant rumble underscoring the silence. No one spoke, but their eyes betrayed fear, guilt, or defiance. Poirot smiled faintly. The little grey cells, they are never wrong. Tomorrow, we search the East Wing again. The raven's heart will reveal its secrets. As the group dispersed, Poirot lingered, the journal in hand. The vault's discovery shifted the game. Someone had staged the apparitions, perhaps to distract from the brooch or to silence those who knew too much. Clara and Julian's fate hung in the balance, and Poirot's resolve hardened. The truth was near, and he would seize it before the raven struck again. Chapter 9. The Final Deception. The air in Ravenswood Manor was thick with anticipation, the mist outside mirroring the fog of deceit within. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, the journal of Cecilia Ashby in hand, its cryptic reference to the raven's heart burning in his mind. The disappearance of Clara Beaumont and Julian Carver, the poisoning of Dr. Hargrove, and the missing ruby brooch had woven a complex web. And Poirot sensed the threads were converging. Tonight, he would set a trap to unmask the culprit, using the manor's secrets as bait. The little grey cells were poised for victory. The morning had begun with a renewed search of the East Wing, led by Poirot and Lady Eleanor, who unlocked the heavy door with a trembling hand. Sir Reginald Thorne, Dr. Hargrove, and Mrs. Violet Pembroke followed, their faces etched with dread. The bloodied raven feather and empty brooch pouch found in the hidden cellar had heightened the stakes, and Clara and Julian's absence loomed like a spectre. The East Wing's dusty corridors revealed little new, but Poirot's sharp eyes caught a faint seam in a wall panel, concealed behind a faded tapestry. He pressed it, revealing a narrow alcove containing a locked iron box, its lid engraved with the raven and rose emblem. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured. "The raven's heart, perhaps?" The box was too heavy to move, its lock rusted but intact. Lady Eleanor claimed no knowledge of it, and Poirot resolved to open it later, suspecting it held the brooch, or evidence of a darker truth. Back in the library, Poirot gathered the group, his demeanour calm but commanding. "Mes amis, the time has come to end this charade. The poison, the apparition, the vanishings, they are not the work of a curse, but of a cunning mind. Tonight, Poirot will reveal the truth." Mrs. Pembroke clutched her handkerchief. "Clara and Julian, are they dead?" Poirot's eyes softened. "I pray not, madame, but their absence is key. Let us reconstruct the night they vanished." He paced, his voice steady. Monsieur Carver's note to Mademoiselle Beaumont said, "Meet me at midnight, East Wing, we end this." They met, but something went wrong. A struggle, blood, a forced window, yet no bodies. "Why?" Sir Reginald scowled. "They stole the brooch and fled, obviously. Cowards?" "No," Poirot said. "The brooch remains missing, and the blood suggests violence, not flight. Someone wished to silence them. But first, let us consider the poison." He turned to Hargrove. "Monsieur, you survived the cyanide in your goblet. Curious, no? As a doctor you knew its signs. Perhaps you took an antidote?" Hargrove's face reddened. "I told you I didn't know. I was lucky, that's all." "Lucky," Poirot echoed. "Or prepared? You searched for Cecilia's elixir, which matches the poison's description. Did you find it first?" Hargrove stammered, but Poirot pressed on, addressing Lady Eleanor. "Madame, the will names Clara and Julian as heirs to the brooch's proceeds. If they are gone, who benefits?" Her lips tightened. "The estate's debts would fall to me, but I'd never—" "Perhaps not," Poirot said, "but someone has forged a path of deception." He produced the journal, reading aloud. "The raven's heart hides my treasure safe from greedy hands. The iron box, I believe, is that heart." Sir Reginald snorted. "You're saying the brooch is in that box? Then why all this nonsense? Poison, ghosts?" "To distract," Poirot said. "The apparition, the feathers, the wax, they were theatrics to sow fear, to keep us from the East Wing. But the poisoner miscalculated. Dr. Hargrove lived, and Clara and Julian, they are not gone," the group gasped. Lady Eleanor's voice was sharp. "Not gone? Then where are they?" Poirot smiled faintly. "Poirot has a theory. Tonight, we return to the East Wing, but first, a test." He placed a folded note on the table, its contents hidden. "This I found in the alcove. It names the poisoner. I will open it at midnight in the East Wing before the iron box." The group exchanged uneasy glances, the trap set. Poirot dismissed them, instructing all to meet at midnight. Alone, he slipped to the East Wing, rigging a simple device, a bell tied to the alcove's tapestry, to alert him if anyone approached the box prematurely. As midnight neared, the manor was silent, the storm's echoes gone. Poirot gathered the group in the East Wing, the iron box gleaming under candlelight. He held the note, watching their faces, Hargrove's sweat, Mrs. Pembroke's trembling, Sir Reginald's scowl. Lady Eleanor's icy calm. "Before we open the box," Poirot said, "let us reveal the note." He unfolded it, revealing blank paper. "A ruse, mes amis, to flush out the guilty." A faint jingle sounded. The bell. Poirot spun, catching Hargrove tugging at the tapestry. "Monsieur, you seek the box before us all?" Hargrove froze. I thought I heard something." "Non," Poirot said. "You sought the brooch, or to destroy evidence." He turned to the group. "Doctor!" Hargrove poisoned himself, a small dose, to deflect suspicion. He knew the elixir's properties, having studied Cecilia's remedies. He staged the apparition, using a cloak from the attic to scare us from the east wing, where he hid Clara and Julian. Hargrove's face crumpled. "You can't prove that." "Mais oui," Poirot said. He pushed the alcove's panel fully open, revealing a hidden door. Inside, bound but alive, were Clara and Julian, gagged and bruised. The group gasped as servants rushed to free them. "Hargrove forged the note to lure Clara," Poirot continued. "He attacked them, hid them here, hoping to claim the brooch for himself. The bloodied feather was his mistake, a trace of his struggle." Hargrove lunged for the door, but Sir Reginald tackled him. As Clara and Julian were freed, they confirmed Hargrove's attack, driven by his discovery that the brooch's sale would expose his embezzlement from the Ashby estate years ago. Poirot opened the iron box, revealing the ruby brooch, its facets gleaming. "The raven's heart," he said, "guarded by greed, but no longer." The truth laid bare. The manor's shadows seemed to lift. Hargrove was restrained, and Poirot's trap had ensnared the final deception. Chapter 10. Justice in the Dawn. The first light of dawn crept through the tall windows of Ravenswood Manor, painting the library in soft golds and banishing the shadows that had clung to its walls for days. Hercule Poirot stood at the centre of the room, his small frame radiating quiet authority as he faced the gathered guests. The ruby brooch, recovered from the iron box in the east wing, gleamed on the table before him, a silent witness to the unravelling of the manor's mysteries. Dr. Lionel Hargrove sat restrained, his face a mask of defeat, while Clara Beaumont and Julian Carver, bruised but alive, stood near Lady Eleanor. Sir Reginald Thorne and Mrs. Violet Pembroke watched in tense silence, the weight of the night's revelations heavy in the air. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice steady and clear, "the storm has passed, both outside and within Ravenswood. The poison, the apparition, the vanishings, all were threads in a tapestry of deceit, woven by human hands, not a curse. Now Poirot will reveal the full picture, so that justice may dawn." He paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "Let us begin with the crime that set all in motion, the poisoning of Dr. Hargrove. The goblet marked with a raven contained cyanide, drawn from Cecilia Ashby's elixir, hidden in the east wing. But why poison oneself? To deflect suspicion? None. Dr. Hargrove, as a physician, knew the antidote. Sodium thiosulfate, likely taken beforehand in a calculated dose. Hargrove's head hung low, but he said nothing. Poirot continued. The apparition, the cloaked figure, was no ghost, but Hargrove, dressed in a cloak from the attic, mimicking Cecilia Ashby to sow fear. The wax, the raven feathers, these were his tools, left to distract us from his true aim, the ruby brooch. Clara's voice trembled. "But why us? Why did he attack Julian and me?" Poirot's eyes softened. "You, mademoiselle, and Monsieur Carver were threats. You suspected the brooch's hiding place, thanks to your mother's stories of Cecilia and Julian's note to you. We end this," referred to confronting Hargrove. "He overheard, luring you to the east wing, where he attacked and hid you in the hidden cellar, hoping to silence you." Julian rubbed his bruised wrists. "He said he'd kill us if we talked. said the brooch was his way out. Out of what? Sir Reginald demanded. What did he want? Poirot turned to Hargrove. Monsieur, you embezzled funds from the Ashby estate years ago, as Lord Ashby's physician. The brooch's sale, mandated by the will, would expose your debts, as the estate's accounts would be audited. You staged the apparition to keep us from the East Wing, poisoned yourself to appear a victim, and hid Clara and Julian to prevent their interference. Hargrove's voice was hoarse. I had no choice. The debts were crushing me. No choice? Lady Eleanor snapped. You nearly killed us all. No, madam, Poirot said. His plan was desperate, but precise. The bloodied feather was his error, a trace of the struggle. And the note I placed in the library, a blank ruse, flushed him out when he tried to destroy the iron box's contents. Mrs. Pembroke sniffled. But the curse, Cecilia's vow, was a story, Poirot said gently. Cecilia hid the brooch to protect it from her family's greed, not to curse them. Her journal led us to the Raven's heart, the box. The rest was Hargrove's invention. He lifted the brooch, its rubies catching the dawn's light. This was the prize, but also the trap. Its value drove Hargrove to desperation, but the little grey cells, they see through such schemes. Sir Reginald cleared his throat. What now? The will? Lady Eleanor nodded. The brooch will be sold, as my husband intended. The proceeds will settle the estate's debts and benefit the heirs, Clara, Julian, and others. Poirot turned to Hargrove. You, monsieur, will face justice. The police have been summoned from the village, delayed only by the storm. They will hear of your crimes, attempted murder, kidnapping, and theft. As servants led Hargrove away, Clara approached Poirot. Thank you, monsieur. I thought we were lost. Poirot smiled. The truth, mademoiselle. It always finds a way, like the dawn. The group dispersed. Lady Eleanor to arrange the estate's affairs, Julian and Clara to recover, and Mrs. Pembroke to pray, her fears of curses finally quieted. Sir Reginald lingered, offering Poirot a grudging nod. Well done, man. Didn't think you'd pull it off. Poirot always does, he replied, adjusting his tie. Alone in the library, Poirot gazed at the portrait of Cecilia Ashby, her raven feather cloak a symbol of defiance, not malice. The manor's shadows had lifted, its secrets laid bare. He pocketed a final raven feather, a memento of the case, and stepped into the morning light, his mind already turning to the next puzzle. Ravenswood was at peace, and justice, as always, had prevailed.